So welcome back to the kitchen, guys. As you can see, I have snapped all my beans while watching the Olympics last night. And what a joy that was. Oh my gosh, we watched rowing and gymnastics and men's volleyball and just everything. It was so fun. And that kept me occupied, and I got the rest of them done today while I was working in meetings. I even showed one of my coworkers, like, I'm just snapping beans while you're talking to me. But I've never done a video on this because it's just one of the easiest things that you can. And I think sometimes I take for granted that everyone just knows the basics. And I have been so blessed this year to get to know a lot of women in my community that are just starting out homesteading and wanting to learn the basics. And I happen to have Stacy here with me today. Stacy, come on in.
Hey,
welcome, guys. Stacy from the Humble Homestead, right?
Yes.
And she is in town, and let me tell you how small this world is. So my son is going on 25, and he probably would have been 5 or 6 when we knew each other.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, her name popped up in the Michigan homesteading groups, and seeing her chat with other people on Facebook, I'm like, gosh, that name sounds so familiar. Sure enough, our worlds were connected way back then.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Just come like full circle. Yeah, that's so cool.
In this homesteading life. You gotta love it. So she is a brand new homesteader, right?
Yeah.
But always had a passion around it.
Yeah, and I've chatted before that we planted a garden before, but I joke, like we tilled the land and threw in some vegetables and let the weeds take over and took what was left. But this year we're trying to be a little more intentional and think through like how to plant things and what we want to plant and
fantastic.
How to preserve what we're planting.
Yeah, fantastic. So today I said, when you want to come over, what do you want to learn? And pressure canning was on that list of things to learn.
Because we're all afraid.
Yes, everyone kind of, even me, intimidated, like you set your pressure canner and you run out of the room hoping it doesn't explode on you. It's really not that scary, and we're going to just take all the scary out of it today. So we're going to get set up to pressure can, or at least stuff our jars, and then we'll be right back with you guys here shortly. Stacy, so we have our jars. They just came out of the dishwasher. So whatever you need to do to get your jars nice and hot, whether it's, you know, sometimes I'll just put them in my canner filled with water, and they'll heat that way. A lot of people do oven heating. Mine came out of the dishwasher. Just sink, whatever you need to do to sterilize your jars before you're ready.
Okay.
And again, the intention is botulism is everyone's concern with canning, and you want to minimize any opportunity to do that. Stacy just washed her hands. My hands are washed. We're good to go.
That's right.
Funnels, typical canning, right? But how fun is it to pack things like this? And you know, a green bean's going to turn sideways and get in your way. I told Stacy, forget the funnel for green beans and just pack them. And we're going to 1 inch of headspace. And do you know what 1 inch of headspace is by eye?
Nope.
Okay.
Can barely tell it with the tool.
Just this bottom ring.
Oh,
as long as you go to
Okay.
that bottom ring, you're good. And then I gave her a recommendation on, if you're just starting canning, one of my most preferred tools is my pickle packer. I use it for everything.
I just keep wanting to say how many pickles could a pickle packer pack?
Yeah. So as you can see, I just pushed down and I got a little bit more room. And that's just going to save you, you know, when you find out that you have extra headspace after you pull it out of the canner. That's just going to allow you to get more in your jars.
I would be afraid that I'm going to squish them. So I'm glad you told me that.
Yeah, no, and I think I feel that way extremely when I'm making pickles.
Yeah.
Like, surely I'm crushing these pickles, but you won't. They really hold up pretty well. And plus, if you know, when you cook with canned green beans, they're soft anyway.
Is this good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Green beans everywhere.
It's okay. What else was I telling Stacy? So a lot of recipes you will read will tell you to put salt or other seasonings in it, and you can certainly do that. I don't. I just can my green beans in water because I prefer seasoning them as my, meal would call for.
Have you ever thought about canning them with onion?
I have. I actually did onion soup, like onion soup seasoning
Okay.
in my green beans before. And it's fine, but I usually forget that I did that.
Oh, and then you're like, oh,
and then I
got the flavor I wanted today.
And onions really don't hold up to canning super well. They get like really, really soft.
Oh, okay.
So I told her I'm not quite sure how far this is going to go. We have quite a bit still left in the sink. So we'll at least get the All-American. A lot of people ask what my canner is. It's the All-American 930, I believe, and it allows me to double stack quarts in it. I think it's the only one that they make that really gives you that freedom and flexibility. So I'm going with that, and we'll break out the Old Faithful Presto if we need to. So Stacy, what intimidates you to date about the idea of pressure canning? Anything?
I think the risk of the canner exploding, and I think that's why. I'm the kind of person that like once I get my head set on something, I can't unsee it. And like the All-American doesn't have the gasket, so I don't know. I feel like that will be less risky,
right?
Even though it's still pressured. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think I would be uncomfortable too if it wasn't a canner that was built to current day safety standards.
Okay.
Just because they were, those issues did occur back in the day because they didn't have the safety release valve and things that canners today are made with. So I definitely would encourage anyone that's just beginning canning. You definitely don't have to buy new. You can garage sale shop for canners. I know my first canner that I used for the first 4 years was a hand-me-down. And Presto is a fairly cost-affordable, what is it? I think they're like $60 maybe for a Presto canner, $50, that you can get one that is safe to use.
And they go fast.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I did watch Marketplace for a while before.
Let's see. What else scares you? Anything?
That I'll take all of the time to preserve food and then it won't be good.
Yeah.
like my little 6 jars of pickles that I'm waiting to taste.
Well, and I will tell you, honestly, the first couple years of my canning, so my first batch of spaghetti sauce I ever made homesteading was so awful. It was so acidic and almost bitter, and I just played with recipes till I got one that I liked. And my first batch of pickles, so heartbroken because they were soggy.
And I worked really hard for some of that pickle crisp.
But
because in one of your videos you talked about how important it was.
It was.
Well, I'm here to tell you can't find it anywhere.
Yes. There are alternatives. There are alternatives to pickle crisp. I think I'll have to find what it is. If I can find it, I'll link it in the description below. Grape leaves are a great alternative.
I did read that, but then in the ball book it says they
not
don't.
to.
Probably because they want you to buy their pickle crisp.
Right. What else was a disaster when I first started canning? Oh, I'll tell you. I was so proud of myself. I thought I was homesteading to the Mecca. I went out foraging for crab apples because I didn't have any fruit of my own. And I thought, I've got it figured out now. I'm doing the real thing. I'm foraging. Went and harvested a ton of crab apples. And that crab apple sauce was so bitter. And that's just because crab apples are so tart.
Right.
And I ended up using it all to make like breads and things like
that's
oil
a good
replacement, but I would have never served it to anyone. But that all being said, you guys will figure out what is your go-to recipes, what is your go-to preferred method of preserving your harvest. So like this, for example, not everyone likes to can their fresh vegetables. They like to freeze them or dehydrate them. And the only reason we choose to can is because that's our style of eating. We're a dump and go type family.
Right.
It needs to be quick, fast, ready to go. If I have to cook a lot after a long day of work, it is not going to happen. So I need something that's shelf ready just for my lifestyle. And we've had our freezers go out and we've lost a lot of food before.
Yeah.
So that's
what I worry about too.
always a fear of mine, is that I'm just going to lose all this work if I was to freeze it. Now I think if I had it in my budget to buy a freeze dryer, I mean, those things are crazy expensive.
Yeah.
But if I had it in the budget to do that, that would be awesome. But I think I would want something that could do more than a few sheets at a time. Because as you can see, what are we up to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Going on 16 quarts of green beans. And I still have a sink full. So,
and then finished off the bowl.
Right, and this is first pickings of just these bush beans. So I'll easily get my 30 quarts of green beans harvested. That is my goal this year. If I can do more, that's great. Because as you guys know, I'm taking that 7th year off. Come heck or high water, right?
2 more years, right?
Yeah.
What have you done to keep track over the last 4 or 5 years to know how many, like you said, you want 30 quarts this year of green beans? Do you just know that you're going to eat 25 and you hope to set up 5 for the following year? Like how?
No, I kind of just know my menus. Okay, so I guess I would say I go off my menu plan. I've talked about this before in past videos, that I know we'll cook 3 proper meals a week. And then we have leftovers the opposite days. And so I know I need 3 vegetables a week. And they don't all have to be the same vegetable.
Right.
So as long as I have, a year supply times 3 of vegetables, I'm good to go.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like a quick, fast method.
Right.
I know I could easily eat spaghetti twice a month. So something with a pasta-based sauce. So I need at least 24 jars of pasta sauce. Now I probably have 40 still down in my pantry because I did so much last year.
Right.
But it's just really knowing
I feel like I can grab
your cooking style. And I have told people this before, that if you are somebody that, you're a homestead mama and you're homeschooling and you're cooking from scratch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Well, let's not get carried away.
I'm saying then you could certainly use more.
Right.
If you're a big family of 6 versus I'm a very small family, you're going to need more than me.
Right. And it would be easy for me to say that most of our kids are grown now, but they come back.
Yeah, sure. And we share a lot with our adult children. But yeah, that was probably my tip. And then to take that the next step further, it's okay, then how do you figure out how much do you need to plant to get that?
Yeah.
And that was just journal keeping over the first.
And that's kind of what I've started this year. Is just don't do this again.
Right.
Don't put your tomato plants 8 inches apart.
Yeah. So I'm going to grab the rest of those beans.
I joked and told my husband, every time I walk out to the garden, I just want to sing Welcome to the Jungle.
I only have space using my All-American and my Presto to fill 5 more jars. So I'm going to go ahead. I like to do this right before I start filling. Just get that water warming up in there. It's already hot water, but I'm just going to heat it up. I'm going to turn over filling the jars to Stacy while I finish packing the jars with green beans. And so just while we've been doing this, before you even got here, I put a big pot of water.
And this is just straight water.
Just straight
correct?
water,
Okay.
yep. Big pot of water on the
Oh,
stove.
and it's full too.
And I got her a ladle. And this is where the funnel might come in handy,
Okay.
just so you're not spilling everywhere. And then you
No
just,
promises.
it's fine if you do. Let me just grab you one tool. This will be your debubbler.
Okay.
Okay. So, what were we talking about? I guess this is where I always wish that you guys were here to ask your questions. I think some people will ask the question, so these are raw packed. So like I said, I just spent the day snapping them last night. The ones I got snapped last night went into the fridge. The ones that did not get snapped last night just sat on my dining room table.
I'm just filling that also too. Though.
Yep. And then you'll notice once you debubble, you might need to add more
Okay.
because it'll fill in the crevices. And yep, you just squeeze it down in there. There you go. And you'll be able to push them back in. Like I said, the ones that were left on the table, I just snapped today. And then I forgot to tell you before canning these why they were in the sink is because they got vinegar washed. So I just
Okay.
put a big gulp of vinegar in a sink full of water
Okay.
and just rinsed them really, really well.
Okay.
Just to kill off any germs that would have, splashed up on them from the compost in the garden.
Got a runner here.
So this is exciting. I really did not expect it to go this far. You'll be surprised as much as we're packing these jars, how much we'll still get floating in our jars, but
Well, they cook down? They won't be as crisp when we eat them, right? So they cook down.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think I'll just show you guys for reference how I like to snap my beans. It is totally personal preference. So it's almost a finger length in length. I like long beans. I don't like little tiny short bits, but everyone pecks their beans differently, or snaps their beans, I should say, differently. Stacy has her first set of jars filled. Off camera, we did a little coaching because beans were floating up above the 1-inch headspace. So I just showed her how I just tuck them down in there underneath the corners, make them stay. She asked a really great question, why? Why is that so important? And I said, I don't know. But I think it's something about how much headspace is needed for a proper vacuum seal. And so that's what we're told to do. And I'm going to teach you the right way.
All right.
So I got you a bunch of lids.
Okay. And you don't heat yours.
I do
first,
not.
right?
No,
Okay.
that's an old rule. Like the canning
I've been
lids.
reading a lot that it's
canning lids
preference.
today don't require that.
Okay.
So at least if you buy ball, and it says on the box. So just read the box. It'll tell you if you need to preheat them. So you might inherit some older lids, maybe from a family member, and they might not be the current standard ones.
Okay.
So if you were doing this properly, you would want to get a vinegar rim, but we're not using anything that's sticky, everything's been clean, sanitized.
Okay, that makes sense.
I personally don't do it for instances like this. I mean, seriously, guys, this food is so clean. It's just water. It will be fine.
Makes sense.
So, wide lids, small lids, rings.
Okay.
So I want to watch you do the first one.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of new canners don't really understand finger tight.
Put it on and then just
Yep,
tight.
that's it. Perfect. You did great. And then I typically
That one batch of jam I did once.
you did great. That's a hard thing for people to get, and then they get a buckle in their lid. you know, because
they over tighten.
they over tighten it.
Okay.
And they don't know why, and it's just that simple thing that just did it. If finger tight is literally that, just finger till you can't tighten it anymore without using wrist force, right?
Right.
Alrighty, so I've had my pots on. You can come here so everybody can see. Stacy. I've had my eyes on low, so I'm just turning those up now to temperature, specifically high, so it can boil.
And it's okay. So I guess I never realized this, and I would always worry. And I've only done water bath canning, but my water wouldn't be boiling yet, and I would have all my stuff prepared, and I'm like, I'm worried because there's
not at all, because what I told her is you just want to make sure that you're doing like temperature to like temperature. So we were doing boiling water, you know, or really, really hot water in the jars of the fresh greens. So now everything's going to come up to temperature at the same time.
Okay.
You just don't want to shock things.
okay.
The nice thing about the Presto, which I told her, if I were you, this is any new canner, please start with this. It is just so simple. You don't have to do anything. So we're simply going to, and I always just give it a little push, just especially because mine's older. We have replaced the ring once in it, and we've replaced the safety valve because it started like leaking out of it, and not because it was
Just from age.
just from age. Yeah. So that one's super simple. All American, while I love it because I can can a bunch in it, it's just one extra step. So you have to take your petroleum jelly or whatever lubricant you're using, because it's just steel on steel. There's no rubber gasket. And I'm just doing a super light coating on the inside of that, and then a super light coating right here. And the first few times I canned with one of these, oh my goodness, me and Todd both had it on the ground trying to get the lid off, so it is quite tricky until you get the hang of it. So my tip is I just take my fingers now, and I just simply measure with my fingers, because that's the trick. It's got to be the exact same on all sides, everywhere. And then just opposite. Not lined up. There we go. I do a pretty good squeeze. Squeeze. Alrighty. And now we are going to bring this up, for our elevation to 10 pounds of pressure. Once it gets to 10 pounds of pressure, we start our timer for 10 minutes while it's pressure relieving. And then you start your timer for whatever your canning recipe calls for. So I saw a recent gentleman post on Facebook, what went wrong with my green beans? He had a lot of siphoning going on, and siphoning is when you lose a lot of water out of your jar.
Okay.
And what he said was he canned his green beans for 15 minutes. And we all know that's not, for people that have been canning, know that's not the appropriate time. But he counted the 10 minutes of it coming to pressure. That's not counted in your pressure canning time. But you just need to let it vent for 10 minutes, and then you start your timer. Okay, well, the canner is done, but Stacy's got to get home to her family, and it's Mama's bedtime. So Todd's going to wrap up pulling out these green beans from the canner. I'll come back to you guys tomorrow morning and show you the final results. But Stacy did learn one thing off camera. This pressure canner, my Presto, was not coming up to pressure. And what I noticed was I was losing steam from around the gasket. That's something that you could experience as a new canner. So I told her, if you experience this, just go run to the store and buy a new rubber seal for your canner lid. So that's what I'll do because I will rely on that throughout this canning season. And any big takeaways from today that you want to share with people, or?
You need a gasket list. No, I have so much information.
So are you going to be scared?
No.
Good.
No, I think even witnessing that it wasn't working to its full
Right.
functionality and we didn't blow up. So
Right.
I think it'll be okay. Like
Good.
it was a pretty, I don't want to say a no-brainer, but a
Yeah.
pretty simple thing to pick up on. Like it wasn't coming
Right.
to pressure and there was leakage, so
Right.
I think I'll be okay.
I said, well, hey, we didn't plan on that learning opportunity, but here we go.
Good stuff.
So thanks for coming out to the Homestead.
Thank you so much for
If
having
there's
me.
ever anything I can do to encourage you or teach you, reach out.
Yeah.
You guys too. If you have any other questions, comments, leave them down in the description below, and I'll do my best to answer what questions that you have. Okay, well, pressure has come down to 0, but notice that there's still a little pressure in there. I've noticed that with this All-American canner than I ever noticed it with my Presto or Miro canner. So I'm going to let that depressurize the rest of the way. I'm going to release the valves on it, or the, latches, and then I'm going to let it sit for 10 minutes. Then we'll take the lid off and we will look at the results. Okay, not bad. Not too much gap at the bottom. Very good. Always a good sign. I like to fit as much vegetable as I can in my jars, so I really do try to get a nice full jar. Now with the canner that didn't end up working on me, I am going to actually just put those in the fridge tonight. Tomorrow I'll slowly warm them back up on the stove and get those canned. But it is well an hour past my bedtime, and I just don't want to do that to Todd tonight and make him stay up till past his bedtime to can those for me. So you guys go give Stacy a holler over at her channel, The Humble Homestead. She's just getting started, and I think it's fun to see more people get interested in growing their own food. And so we ended up with, that's 14, plus I've got 7 in there, 21, 3 more on the counter here, 24 quarts of canned green beans from just that first picking off those bush beans. So that's exciting. So thanks guys. Hopefully this was helpful to folks just getting started on canning. Hopefully take a little bit of the scary out of the process for you. And I'll see you guys on the next video.